What's happening, guys? Gemma here and back again for a top 10 video. Now this video has been requested quite heavily, so I thought it fitting today that we take a look at my top 10 N64 games. Now the N64, as many of you guys know, is a phenomenal console, and it was one of the last cartridge based consoles, and I think that holds a lot of credibility within the retro gaming world. Now I love it. I have a decent library of boxed and unboxed games, and I thought, when you do a top 10 video, there's always somebody out there that said, why didn't you include this game? Why didn't you include that game? So what I'm going to do in the description is have a list of honourable mentions outside of my top 10. So without further ado, guys, let's take a look at my top 10 N64 games. So in at number 10, guys, I'm going to kick off with Wave Race 64, this particular version being the NTSC version. Now why is this my number 10? It's fast, it's furious, it feels incredibly agile, and I've always found that the control systems have been incredibly responsive. I really like the interface on this. I do like you know, the kind of colours, and I've always said that the colour saturations in older games, 64 and downwards, have always drawn my attention. And I think this game looks incredibly pretty, and it fits that template really well. I've always enjoyed the Wave Race series, and I do think that if you've not got it, go out and buy a copy. It's pretty cheap. I think I've got an unboxed copy knocking around somewhere, and it's definitely a solid number 10. So at number 9, guys, is a classic first-person shooter, and that is Doom 64. Now back in the day, I never had access to Doom 64 because the 64 came out at a period in my life where I started to drift out of gaming, so I didn't get a chance to play this. Now what I like about this is it has an incredibly authentic feel, and unlike Doom that was released on the original Xbox, which I do feel lost its way a little bit, this adopts the classic Doom with all the familiar kind of characters and the enemies, and it just feels phenomenal. I really enjoyed this, and I bought it about 10 months ago, having watched a review, and I found it incredibly gripping and incredibly immersive, and it kind of made me miss the days back in the PC era in the early 90s when we were playing Doom 1 or the original Doom and Doom 2. So for me, this is a number 9 purely on the nostalgia punch that it packs. In at number 8 is a game that I played one Christmas non-stop, back to back. It was Banjo Kazooie. This game is so much fun, and again really kind of buys into that nice kind of colour template. And what's interesting about Banjo Kazooie, as some of you guys may know, is that you kind of have the main character Banjo and you have your awesome mate Kazooie on the back of you, and together the moves combine really well to help you to progress through the levels. And I've always found this game really cute, really fun, and I've always kind of really enjoyed the kind of box art. It still makes me smile today, you know, as you look at this. I really like the kind of back. It says actions and puzzles and bears, oh my. Kind of looking here at the Wicked Witch of the West, so to speak, adapted from the Wizard of Oz. I think it as a whole package, it's just really fun, and I'm sure plenty of you guys out there have played it, but if you haven't, go and get yourself a copy of my number 8 in the N64 pile. In at number 7 is a game that I unfortunately don't own yet, but has been widely recommended, and I've played this game to death, and that is FZero X, with an absolute killer soundtrack, and obviously first kind of piloted on the Super Nintendo. Now the N64 version offers some fantastic 3D capabilities. Obviously N64 is a much more powerful console than what the SNES could offer with the Mode 7, but I really enjoy it. Again, I think that just the kind of versatility, there's a little bit of kind of Wipeout in there, and I kind of see a little bit of Mario Kart, so for me it's in my top 10 because there's a kind of immersion with other games, and on top of that, as I've already mentioned, an absolute killer soundtrack. So I mean, just out of interest, guys, how much is FZero X going for at the moment? If you could let me know in the comments, I'd be greatly appreciative, because I do hope to pick up a copy soon, but I really enjoyed it back in the day, and that's why it's my number 7. Now my number 6 may shock some of you and cause a little bit of controversy in the comments, but I'm putting Mario 64 in at my number 6. It's not even in my top 5. Now, originally when this came out, I struggled to adapt to the 3D. I really, expected some side scrolling, and there was barely any of that. I just couldn't get into the 3D. I didn't like the camera angles at all. But as I've gotten a little bit older, I really, really have grown to appreciate this game, and it does offer hours upon hours of gameplay, kind of going through it, trying to collect all of the coins, really does provide an awesome challenge. So it has to be in an N64 top 10. Now, again, this game, I think what it also did for gaming and for Nintendo is pave the way for other 3D Mario games, and I just feel that the fans, including me now, really have grown to appreciate Super Mario 64. It's a classic franchise, and it's a must-own on any console, any Nintendo console. Now, I didn't want to kind of litter my top 10 with too many Mario games. I've tried to go for a little bit of versatility, but if I didn't put this in here, it wouldn't seem right. So Mario 64 is my number 6. Coming down into the top 5 now, guys, is the classic 4-player multiplayer racing game, Mario Kart 64. Now again, what I really, really like about this version of Mario Kart is that it does feel very much like the SNES version. The kind of camera panning, the 3D angles. I really, really enjoyed this, and I think I first started to play this just as I got into my first year of university, because the N64 was still pretty popular in my social circle back in 2001. So I've had many, many nights on this, as I've had many, many nights on other Mario Kart games, and you just can't pass it up. It's an absolute staple title, no matter what Nintendo console you have. Mario Kart is a classic. It's so much fun, and there's an innocence about it that just can't be denied. Again, just kind of looking at the box art on the back as well as the front, I've always found it to be quite appealing, and I really, really like that 4-player element to it as well. So guys, Mario Kart 64 is my number 5. At number 4, guys, is another classic title that enables that kind of split screen into 4 players. You've probably already guessed it. Based on the classic Bond film, GoldenEye 007. Wow, this was the first game I ever played on the Nintendo 64, and it still today feels like a classic first-person shooter. The controls do feel a little bit blocky if you were to play it now, but back then our minds didn't know any different, and just meandering around the corridors and through the doors and through the warehouses and through the open areas in this phenomenal game felt as fresh as it ever did. And I just feel that this, again, I think for the multiplayer element, has really given GoldenEye some longevity within the gaming world. Now I'm going to show you a picture now and probably ruin this front cover for you, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. So there we go. Now unfortunately, every time I look at this box, I see that picture that I've just shown you there with his mouth. It looks a little bit elongated. Bit of a fun thing there, guys, but nonetheless, GoldenEye 007, particularly for its multiplayer, puts this at my number 4. At number 3 then, guys, is another classic racing title. Yes, I put it above Mario Kart 64. It is Diddy Kong Racing. Now, Rare were one of the kind of prime developers for the Nintendo 64, and the reason this is at my number 3 is because I really, really enjoyed it, not just for its multiplayer but also just as a single player, and I found that I could have a little bit more fun with Diddy Kong Racing as a single player than I could on Mario Kart 64, so that's why this is at number 3, pipping Mario Kart to the post slightly. Now I played this for months and months and months back in the day, and it got me through some pretty dark times back then. So again, this one packs a solid nostalgia punch for me. This game, I think that I watched a video recently about the history of this, and it developed into Diddy Kong Racing. Initially, Miyamoto wasn't going to let them use Diddy Kong, but I think it was the fact that this character was introduced right at the last minute that really gave that game a solid feel and a solid title, and I think for that reason it's again had a lot of longevity within the retro gaming world. So guys, what can I say? I mean, it just looks so much fun. Again, the 4-player element is absolutely wicked, but I think because I enjoyed the single player campaign a little bit more, it's definitely a worthy mention at number 3. Number 2. Now, I don't own this game because it's ridiculously expensive, but I will be getting it. You've probably guessed it, it's Conker's Bad Fur Day. Now, this game does not take itself seriously in the slightest. Visually, it reminds me a lot of Banjo Kazooie in the kind of 3D element, the popping colours, the vibrancy, the eccentric characters, and I just felt so compelled back in the day when I first played this. I loved it. Now, bit of a bonus fact for you, I believe that the voice acting for this game had 3 actors only, and the dialogue just cracks me up in a lot of places, and there's so much kind of randomness, which again adds to the fact that Conker's doesn't take itself seriously. And I think that was a pretty bold move, as there were a lot of kind of somewhat, you know, serious games out on the N64. Conker's kind of came in and just added so much fun to the console, and you know, as you guys know, it's crazy expensive, box or unboxed, but I think maybe by the end of the year I'm going to set myself a little target to obtain a copy. Not bothered about it being boxed, but it would be nice if I could grab a copy. It's fun, it's fast, it's furious, it's colourful, it's just great. I'm smiling from ear to ear as I say it. Conker's Bad Fur Day is my number 2. So my number 1 N64 game of all time is Ocarina of Time. Now this is the Gold Kart NTSC version, which doesn't really matter. But I bought this one Christmas with Banjo Kazooie from a salary that I had from a flower store that I worked. And as a Zelda fan, you know, growing up on Link to the Past on the SNES, I was expecting so much from this game, and boy did we get it. That first moment when you you see the Deku Tree for the first time, the graphics were nothing like we'd ever seen, and it just resonates with me. It's one of those moments in gaming that you never ever forget. And then from there, you know, the first time you step into Kakariko Village, the first time you go into the castle, the first time you meet Epona. I mean, there's some seriously important moments within this game, and I just feel that it's aged incredibly well compared to the blocky polygons of other, you know, N64 titles, some of which we've got right here. So this is amazing. This is absolutely fantastic, and I know people out there are going to be saying, why not Majora's Mask? Why not Majora's Mask? Check the honourable mentions in the description and you'll see some other fantastic N64 titles, but there's no denying, guys, this is the best N64 game of all time. Now, I'd love to know your feedback, so please drop me a comment, and if you enjoyed the video, please like, comment and subscribe. I've got a whole top 10 playlist, which again, everything will be in the description, so there we go. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll be back soon. Take care.